Awesome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of It Is What It Is podcast. I am your host, Cody Kelly. Look, I'm super excited. First of all, it's a new season, a new year. If you're watching this, we're in 2022. And with that being said, we have new content, new people, new discussion focuses. I mean, it's going to go down. I'm super excited about this. If you've been following the podcast, you know that CVMK Global supplements are out. Cop those from superpower to saucy to transform to glow to batter up. It's all designed for you. But this episode, before we get into it, I have an amazing author. First of all, when I reached out, Tara's phenomenal, responded, didn't give me the cold shoulder. So I'm super excited. New book coming out. We're going to get into it. But if you want to keep seeing amazing content and amazing influencers and leaders like Tara Hall, you got to do a couple things. You got to first go to cvkglobal.store. Second thing, subscribe to the YouTube page at YouTube at CV Space K. We're all amazing content is seen, heard, and felt, and connect with your man at CVMK33 and CVMK_global on Instagram. And with that being said, how are you doing today?
I'm well. And thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be here. Today.
It is my absolute honor. Look, when you connected with me and you responded, I was like, yes. I always say nobody has to do anything for you, right?
Right.
So when somebody acquiesces, it's always kind of my job to just intrigue and just, I'm super humbled that you're on the show. I'm super excited. Thank you also so much for sitting over. I can really get into the book, but I'm excited because you have a new book coming out that will be available January 2022 and on Amazon, correct?
That's
I got that correct?
That's
called
right.
Emerging Men.
Yeah.
So before we do all that, first of all, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you came upon this great journey.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I am, as you see my name there, Tara Hall. I'm the owner of Tara Hall Inspired Solutions. It is a training and development company where I specialize in leadership development, mindset coaching, inspirational speaking, and online programming as far as those who want to do personal development. And I've been in this space now. It's been about 3 years, actually coming up on 3 years. So I still have what I call my investor, my 9 to 5, that's funding my other adventures in this space. And so I got into writing a little bit back in 2018, and I've been on that journey ever since. So I figured, once you start to learn something, it's important to bring other people along in that process. And for me, I had the first opportunity to write in a compilation book actually in 2018. So that's where it started. And then I wrote my own book. And then I said, I'm ready to try my own compilation book. And so this is kind of where the journey began a little bit for me.
Sure, I like it. So this is really kind of like the third iteration, right? This is kind of the third phase of this writing journey. So you released a book prior to Emerging Men. You talked
Right.
about the 11 female leaders that you had. First of all, share with us how did that come about? And then I guess my part two is from that, you mentioned that there was a void, a gap in male representation and sharing genuine and authentic, transparent moments and feelings. How does that inspire you from the book that you were working on to going to this kind of demographic that really is underrepresented?
Yeah. Well, just to back up, like you were saying, the first iteration of Emerging actually came about in 2020, during COVID, of course, right? And I was saying to my sister one day, I said, wow, can you imagine the number of people that are writing books that are going to come out during this time, because people just maybe have the quiet time, the quiet space that they needed to get it done. And little did I know, about mid towards the end of the summer last year, I started thinking, I don't know, and this was just the title just came to me. The word emerging came to me. I didn't know what it was, but like when I get these things, I just put them in my notes in my phone. And as the summer progressed, about like September, I said, this looks like a good title for a book. And that's where it came from. And I said, well, I had the experience of being in a compilation book and being able to share a story about, how I started moving in the personal development space, and changing my life. What about me inviting some other ladies who are probably in similar spaces as me, as I am, and invite them into the writing journey and see if they're interested. And so my goal was, I think my goal initially was 10, and I said, well, I'll get 10 women, and we'll just kind of go from there. And once I started sharing it, I really didn't even get a chance to kind of advertise it too much, because once I had a few people on board, they started sharing it with other people, and I really had like my 11 ladies in place probably in a matter of like maybe 2 weeks or so. And so it happened really quickly. And I just want to add too, this is also the power of social media too.
Yeah.
One being in that I'm in other networks, right? So I've been, I met some people from a conference. We stayed connected. Then you get into these other, tribes of people. And so I reached into some of those networks, and they were like, sure, yeah, I want to write my own book, but I'm not really ready to write an entire book. But a
Mm,
chapter, yeah, I could do a chapter. I could do a
yeah.
chapter. So it started there, and as I was closing out the end of that book, in terms of the coaching part with the ladies,
Sure.
I got another thought, and I said, this would be pretty powerful if I could get men to tell their story and do it in the same way, except I want it intimate. I want a smaller group, not as large. So my goal, I believe, was 7. That was my goal. I ended up with 6, and I feel, hey, that was the number it was supposed to be. And so it was. So for me, uh, getting the men on board, I'll tell you, Cody, was a lot more challenging.
I believe it.
That was definitely a lot more challenging because I'm like, oh my goodness, I said 7, right? How am I gonna get 7? And so it took me some time. It took me some time to nurture connections and to
Yeah.
keep reaching out, people I knew,
Yeah.
and said, hey, this is what I'm up to. You could look at the women's book and see what that was about, and see, would you be willing, to share part of your life and your journey. And why I thought I could do it, especially as a woman working and coaching men through the process, I
Mm,
really think came from the fact that I have over 25 years in social services background. And, I worked with a lot of families, I work with a lot of children, I work with a lot of men who were sometimes on the outskirts of the family, right? They had their own journeys of why they weren't in the home to parent their children, um, custody, divorce issues, mental health, substance abuse, so kind of a whole variation. And I really felt like I could use a lot of my skills and abilities when I was, working with families then, to really feel like I had a foundation to be able to work with men and to help them, you know, sort of craft their story, in print form. So that's kind of where all of that came from. And yeah, so yeah, the men were a little tougher to get on board, but I got 6.
I believe it. So, and we are difficult, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You can reach out, and and I don't, want to get, you don't want to put general labels on anybody and whatnot,
Right.
but for the most part, women are a bit more adaptive. If you say, "Hey, we're going to do something," you will get a "huh, that's interesting," versus a man be like, "Nah," it's just an automatic denial. It's automatic skepticism. It's automatic, just
Yes.
like, why, so I can only imagine trying to gather whatever amount, whatever 6 or 7 men that would share, a piece of them, right?
Yeah.
Something I've been focusing on is mental health. Mental health is a never-ending journey, but it's always a road that everybody should travel down. But what I've learned is that it's hard to unpack. Like, it's hard to be really, really honest and really, really, I think, granular. So how did you extract? Like, I mean, obviously there was a particular focus,
Yeah.
but how did you get them to be vulnerable?
Well, uh, the way I coach and the way I do it is honestly, the first few assignments they had was really free flow.
Okay.
It was, you're not wedded to any topic yet. You're not wedded to any format yet. Your job is just to begin thinking about what you would like to share. And
Sure.
secondly, what story, or what aspect of your life do you think would make the most impact based on who you serve right now? Because some of these individuals, they serve as leaders in their own communities. They work with, they might do training, they may do coaching, they might do speaking engagement. So there was another aspect too, was to think about, who do you speak to already? Who is your target audience? And maybe that's who you're crafting your message for. So I really kind of left it open for them with those parameters in place to kind of think about. And as we were going through the process, I had some samples of some of the stories from the prior book to
Sure.
give as a way to think about how you can share your story. And honestly, it really came down to, I think, just our coaching time and them hearing each other, because people do best when they sort of have a, their own tribe together. You know what I mean? They're working
Right.
together. There's accountability to kind of help each other through the process. And so I really think I was just blessed, honestly. That's what I say. I was blessed that they selected me to work with, because I do think they really came with a lot of skill and a lot of gifts already, and it was
Mm.
just kind of formatting it and crafting it. And I call it, have them 3D the story. Like, I want people to be able to feel it. I want them to be able to see it from another angle. Like, I want you to, like, really give me some details and make the story juicy, so people are going to be like, wait a minute, so what did happen here? Because you want to pull your reader in, and they absolutely did that. So for those that, when you secure a copy, you'll see what I'm talking about.
I gotcha. I like the plug. When you look, buy it. Secure the copy. It's on Amazon. When you were redacting it, right? You're putting the compilation together. They've completed their exercises, and you have this spectrum, I guess is to say, of information. Did you ever come across a story that just wowed you for good or for bad? Right? Just like, huh? Like, really? Like you went through this? Um, like what was that aha moment? And I don't mean like aha in a good way, but I mean like aha, like wow, like I did not know.
I think for me, it was maybe a collective aha, because
Okay.
I even told the gentleman that, and every time we would connect, I would say, I'm really honored, I'm really humbled, because not often do you get men willing to share, right? Number one, willing to share
Right.
about themselves, but secondly, to say, I'm also going to do it and share it with the world now. And so
Just
for
got done
me,
with chest day. I'm powering through. It's January. It's freezing out. I get it. The weather sucks, especially if you live here in the Midwest. But I get through it. Super power pre-workout. This is my signature line. You can purchase it at www.cvmkglobal.store, where all your signature supplement needs are met.
and so for me, when I think about, their vulnerability and how they tell the story, I just say the collective aha is that they were all willing and committed to the process, to see it through, and to see their own story go through a process. And one of the gentlemen said, the writing was actually therapeutic for him.
Hmm.
uh, one said that they didn't realize that, they thought they had processed and worked through some stuff until they kind of had to go through it again and write it this time, to say, well, maybe I didn't quite work all that stuff through as I thought I had. Because writing will do that. It will stir up some of the past. But one thing I always work when whomever I work with, I always encourage them to make the decision to share the story that they have absolutely healed from,
Hmm.
because you don't wish, I don't want, rather, I'll say, I don't want anyone to feel that they have opened themselves up in a space that makes them more vulnerable, that they haven't really processed. So
Yeah.
that was one of the other parameters, was that the story they shared had to be one that they healed from. It didn't mean that they wouldn't be triggered
Right.
by what they shared, but they certainly had to make sure that they were healed with that story.
How do you know that someone is healed from something? So when you said that, it really registered. Mainly because healing is funny, and what I mean by healing, there are levels to healing,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And let's like, I had back surgery a few years ago. I'm in better shape than I was prior to that, but it's a difference, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a difference, right?
Right.
I sometimes I think of there's a biblical story of, Jesus and the woman of the issue of the blood, the issue of blood, and what a lot of readers don't, or they fail to understand, is that that doesn't mean she didn't get sick again, right?
Right.
Like, that specific issue was healed, life in and of itself continued. And I wonder, like, to say I'm fully healed or I'm set free from this, like, how do you know that, like, I'm completely over it?
Well, I think for the gentleman, I can't ever answer that they are fully healed, because as you said, right, healing is in different stages, and it doesn't mean that, like I said before, that you may not get triggered by the story or triggered by the events of the story. Um, but that's why I ask them to 3D the story and to tell it from different angles and to be able to take the reader into it. And I can only thing I can do is to tell them that they have the ultimate choice in what they want to share, because it's still their story. I'm never going to morph it or change it in such a way that it doesn't sound like them, that it
Mhm.
isn't them, and they have final review of what they decided to share. So I don't. They have to determine that they've healed from that. The only thing I can do is, once I get it and receive it and review it, only thing I can do is tell that this is one they really want to share, because otherwise they will abort the process, or they will say that's not one I want to do anymore. And and the same was true for the ladies, that the same parameters. And interestingly, when you ask that question, I do think about after the stories were done, they were print, the books were out. Um, I think what it does, because it happened to me when I when I shared my first story, and then when I wrote my own book, you kind of go through this, oh my goodness, I'm vulnerable again. I just bared everything, and I didn't. I wanted to do this, but at the same time, I'm excited and I'm nervous about it. So I
Hmm.
just tell them to honor all the feelings, because you're gonna go through it no matter what. You feel good about it when you write it. Yeah, this is the story I want to tell. Then when it's in print and it's done and it's out there, it's like, oh man, I told everybody all my stuff. That's why I say tell the one that you know that you feel most comfortable telling. I never dictate what they should share or anything. So they make all those decisions.
That's good. I think you hit it. You really nailed it. There's a vulnerability post deliverance. And what I mean by that, like,
Yeah.
whenever you do something, when it's in process, you're confident, like, you're
Yes.
super confident. But soon as you finalize it and you release it, you feel like a child. Why did I just, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Like, anybody who does not have doubt, I feel like, is not human. Right? Like, doubt, it seems like it's ingrained, and this weirdness that I can feel in a sense, like a nakedness or something, like a, just like,
Yeah.
it's
It's
exposed. You know what I'm
exposed.
saying? An
Yeah.
exposed truth, an exposed experience. And I think that can, it takes real maturity to sit there and to bask in the emotion, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna do anything. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna just wait.
Right.
Right? Because,
Right.
I think, initially, I think those men are right. They're like, no, I'm pulling this off the shelf. I'm not sharing this, right? But, that's great. And what I do like about it is that you said you honored the writing, you honored the shared stories, and you did not change it to
No.
fit a narrative. And, I think that is so needed and so missing, because, like, everybody, when we create something, we want it to sell, so you got to fund it, right, like, we
Right.
don't want to just sit there and have it, take up space on a hard drive. So the temptation to create incentive, right, is there, and it's like, this is good, this would be better, this would sell. You start seeing within, like, oh, I can, and not to change their stories. I think it's truly admirable. I want to get into some of your other writings before I let you go, because I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
I think you have a writing called "The Top 5%," if I'm not mistaken, "The Power of the 5%: Success Lessons to Amplify Your Life." Published it right before the pandemic hit, literally March
Right.
2020.
Yeah.
I know
Actually,
that had to be a shock. You published it, and then the world kind of comes to
yeah.
an end. So what happened there?
So yeah, actually I ended up releasing the book on my birthday in March. And yeah, you're right. It was like the week before everything changed. So what I'll say, so that book actually is my personal journey, as I kind of had started going through personal development, my personal journey, and making decisions around, just speaking up more, owning my space, owning my zone of genius. What am I good at? And deciding to step into entrepreneurship. And for me, I was really taking people through, and I call it, when you're in the cartoons and they have that bubble on the side, that thought bubble. I'm really taking you in my thought bubble of things that I was thinking as I was moving through the process. And so I share with the people that I work with what my process was like and what I experienced, because I understand. That's why I say I honor the feelings and the emotions that the aspiring writers, authors have, because I walked through it, and I knew even when I was done with it, I was like, I'm not releasing this like right now. Like I was done. I was happy to be done with the writing part, but I was like, I didn't release it actually until I would say it was about like almost maybe about like 10 months later. So
Sure.
although I was done with it, I didn't release it because I felt like there were still some things that I wanted to change and to modify. And honestly, it was what they call analysis of paralysis. Like
Paralysis.
I was
Yep.
just like I was just stalling, quite honestly. And it was me going through what you were just saying before, the doubt of should I do this? Why am I doing this? So I understand the seat that aspiring authors sit in
Sure.
when they are excited about it, and then when it's done, it's like, "Uh-oh, now I really gotta do it, like, I really gotta hit that live button and say
Mhm.
yes," so, but that book is really walking people through, uh, 5%, like, taking how do you take small wins and add them up to a bigger win? Because so often people get caught up thinking, like, success is this big one big pie, like, I'm aspiring to get this one big thing, and
Right.
actually the journey is in getting it. That's the lesson. That's the
Right.
lesson. So that's where the success lessons come from. I'm sharing some of the success principles that I use to work through the process and that I use in my coaching. And I'm a certified Jack Canfield success principles trainer. So all those principles around how you move from one place to the next is incorporated in there, but also incorporated in my trainings and workshops, because sometimes people, like, they just need to get some small wins under their belt, to
Hmm.
feel like I've got evidence to say I can do it. And so that's what that's about.
I love it. We need to hire you. I was thinking. I said, I think you hit it on the head. These small steps that go unnoticed are really the signs of success. I think it goes unnoticed for a couple reasons. A, it's hard to celebrate minor things, right?
Mm.
Like if you get up and let's say a minor thing is you took the trash out on time before the garbage people got there. That's not, it's a minor thing, but it's so needed.
Right.
But nobody celebrates that because it's expected. And the problem is we're confusing ROI or expectation, right, with real life. And real life is not analytical. Like we put numbers associated to everything. So it's only successful at this amount or at this pace or at this dividend, right?
Right.
And when you do something like that, anything that does not come to that level is automatically discarded. And I think
Right.
that's hurtful because that's a lot in that little space, right? It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm trying not to. I'm sorry. I've been super preachy lately. I was telling my wife, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I just been super preachy, but like, the Bible talks about being faithful over a few things. Like, I'm thinking about it now. It really has a focus of understanding that God is in small stuff.
Yes.
Like it's the small stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
not this big overarching, miraculous whatever. It's the small stuff.
Yeah.
And we overlook it because society doesn't care about the small stuff, right?
No, and that's the danger too of social media at the same time. So as much as it's a helpful thing to expand your reach, to
Right.
network in different spaces now, it can be dangerous because it looks like everybody's life is just so perfect, and the reality is we all know it's not, right? But we're going to show the things that look glamorous. And I remember doing a live on my business page called Why You Should Sweat the Small Stuff. Because you should take notice of those small things, because that again is where the lesson is, but that's also where you start to gain your muscle and your momentum to keep doing what you're aspiring to do. And I always tell people, like, my success journey may not be yours, Cody, right? So
Right.
your success journey is not mine. Everyone gets to define success as they see it for them. So that's why I say a little bit of social media can be a little dangerous, because you can find yourself looking over in somebody else's lane or looking over in that lane, and it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be over here. This is what I'm doing. This is my focus. And so if you stay true to what you do best, uh, what works best for you, what you do that you don't even have to like think about, it just comes easy for you, like that's your thing. And I know what my thing is, so I stay in my lane. you know and
Mm.
I just wish more people would be aware of that, and really honor what they do well. And then you reach whatever that success journey is for you.
I like it. I like it. Tara, look, I know we got a couple minutes left. I'm gonna give you the space. A minute, you coach individuals, you influence leaders, you help bring people into a space that they can be confident in their own lane, right? This book,
Right.
Emerging Men, is about gathering these collections of stories from a community that has really not been tapped into so that others can heal from their experiences.
Yeah.
Share with the audience, if you had to give them, it's 2022, they're seeing this January 2022, what would you tell them in a minute?
I would tell them, like, don't wait for a new year to start doing new things, right? When you identify what it is that you think is best for you, like, start working on it. And I always, encourage people to get connected to people who are doing the things that you want to do, or that you maybe you're currently doing, but you want to refine it and perfect it. So I would say just get connected to people who are the right people around you, and get accountability, right? Because you don't have to wait. You don't really have to wait for anything. Like, we all internally have what we need. Sometimes we just need someone to help us bring it out. And that's what happened to me. I wasn't as, I was operating in the world in a big space in terms of what I did in my career, but I felt unfulfilled. I felt there was more I could do. And until I invested in support and mentoring and coaching, that someone helped bring some things out of me. So don't be afraid to be coachable. Don't be afraid to be teachable. Like, let people support you.
Perfect. I love it. Let people support you. Tara, where can they connect you? Where can they follow you? Where can they support you? Buy the book. I know I mentioned it a couple times, just dropping a little, little Easter eggs, but where can they connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on all things social media. I have my business page on Facebook, Tara Hall Inspired Solutions. I connect there. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, again, Tara Hall, and on Instagram, it's Tara D Hall. But all things Tara Hall, it's easy to find me, and I love to connect with people there.
Awesome. Awesome. Y'all connect with Tara. She's all things on social media, her LinkedIn, her website. Buy the book via Amazon. Support her. Amazing author, amazing influencer. And if you want to keep seeing amazing individuals like Tara Hall, you know what you got to do. We said it at the beginning of the show. Hopefully I can speak. Connect with your boy on Instagram at CVMK33 and the business page at CVMK_global. Subscribe to the YouTube page at CV Space K and shop at CVMK Global .store. I'm glad I can remember my own website. Until next time, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks.